Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to a special episode of Transfer Market Metrics for Anfield Index. Now, I always have to double check, but this is episode number 12. I'm sure someone will correct me on that anytime soon, but it is the number I am committed to and I am going with. So we've got three players on the docket for you tonight. All very different, all set to be reviewed as ever by the man who I had a taste of his lifestyle this week because I was in Lanzarote, although I didn't have private security, a butler and everything else. How are we, Bart? How is life for the other half?
It's all good, mate. It's good to see you having a little walk around in your blue sky holiday as well. So I'm glad you had a good time away, all refreshed and ready to go.
Indeed, although landed at Edinburgh, freezing cold, and today it has been snowing. So it is a big bump back to reality. But whether these three are shrouded in reality or whether these three are just random links, we are about to discuss and profile them as ever as we do on Transfer Market Metrics. Now, I always feel like we've got to remind people of this because in the chat panel, it always feels like people start shouting out names or wanting us to do things. So as a reminder for TMM, it's only players there's something in it. So if we can't get anything, we will not put players on the docket in Transfer Market Metrics. And that is the crucial thing. Okay, without further ado, let's get into our three. And we've got almost all positions. We've got a striker, we've got a winger, we've got a midfielder for you tonight. And one that I'm telling you, we're going to save the best till the end because Bart's glasses were steaming up when he was profiling a young midfielder stat. So we're going to have a look at that one especially. But the first one up, Bart, Benjamin Sesko. Now, this is an interesting one because on the surface, get goals. Young Bart, as you'll know, 21, doing in a team we like to do business with, shall we say, in Red Bull Leipzig. You know, we've got the history with them. It's an interesting one, though, because David Ornstein, who we know, got quality links, has mentioned it. A few others have linked in with Liverpool. And when we've been tracking in Bart's or trying to get info, there has been talk that, yes, he is one of the names that Liverpool have looked at. But when I watch him, the eye test tells me a physical specimen that is what I call a blam merchant, for the lack of technical description, as in can smash a goal in for 25 yards. However, that is not always, as we know, exactly what Liverpool are looking for and doesn't necessarily meet that facilitator element. So, Bart's wagon wheel stats, what do they tell us about Sesko?
So, as always, we'll look at his playing time. So try and give you a bit of physicality because as we are, in the back end of another season, the boys are approaching, 30, 40, they're looking at 55 plus games a season. That's a typical Liverpool game. So we have to look at the minutes they played, right? To give you an idea about whether they can handle capacity and whether we can step them up by about the sort of minimum or the maximum we should be reckoning about 25% minutes. So if we look at his profile, he has clocked a 2,000 minute season. That was in Austria. Typically, not a big surprise for those who love football. It's from Red Bull Salzburg to Red Bull Leipzig. So a pretty, I think they've got a private jet that just quickly shifts players between two clubs. So, it's just how it works. And then he's in the Bundesliga. He's clocked the same number of minutes, give or take, about 4 than he did last season. So he is on to hit probably his career high, I would say, with about 10 games to go. I've seen lights flicker out of a lot of things, but he should hit his probably career high in terms of minutes. So minutes have gone up. That's good. So it's increasing his load. If we look at if we just toggle this per 90, always better that way. XG, which is another thing we look at. So what's he doing? So last season he came in for the 31 games. He started 17 games. He's already started more games last season. So last season he got 0.4 XG per game. Okay, not bad. And XA, which is assists, of 0.07. So combined 0.52. He's on 0.4 already. and non-penalty XG is 1.3. So it's a little bit down, but it's got a little bit to go. Okay, so it's not negative, but just to be honest with you, these are the ballpark. This is the same ballpark that Sesko is at Bournemouth, the same ballpark that the guy Simmons we've done. It's the same ballpark as is it Gittins at Borussia Dortmund. Yeah. So these are all in and around this kind of level of XG and XA per 90 minutes. And Cody isn't far off this, apart from he's slightly better in the goals and the assists, and vice versa for Diaz. So yeah, these are in the right place, is what I'm trying to say. Yes, it's a slight concern he's dropped off a little bit, but let's see where he is into the season, I would suggest for that. In terms of shots, so his shots have so in the Austrian Bundesliga he was hitting 3.5 a game. In the German Bundesliga when he came in, he was 2.8, let's be kind. He's now down about 2, but they're probably, so his percentage he's maintained the percentage on target, which is good. About 50% of his shots are on target, which is where you want. All right, so he's kind of honing his game a little bit, should we say? It's probably a way to go. But let's get back to the old favourites. So up the top here, we have 3 blocks. Regular viewers of TMN will know what we look at. So defensively, as we're not in a German Bundesliga is a good league, but generally speaking, the Premier League asks for, and the way we play, asks for all 11 players to do their work on and off the ball. So we can't really have too many red bars in this defensive area. Tackles is fine, but what's pleasing to see is his clearances 86 percentile for a forward. A little bit weird, but that might be because he's back on doing corners or something like that. Aerials 161. That's defensively. So again, you could be back on corners, could be on the edge, those kind of things. And then you've got other in terms of blocks and interceptions. So that game, we've said before, when he's doing interceptions, it's because he's maybe covering passing channels, that kind of thing. So these aren't bad, not at all, considering we look profile the lad in Bundesliga 2, the Greek lad. He didn't have great defensive stats, but the rest of it was good. So these are comparatively good, and they're better than his mate Simmons, I think, who we did at RBL last show we did. So, but what is he doing between the boxes? Now, as a forward, it's not massively important, but we still need to understand what his current role is. All right. So, touches in the penalty box, that is a concern. I'm not going to lie to you. That is in the 7th percentile for touches in the attacking penalty box. If we're buying him to play either 9 or a wide forward, that's just nowhere near what we require from our forwards to be done. Okay, progressive passes received, again, 24 percentile. That's really low. So that is saying to you that he is, as this suggests, he carries it from deep to the front players, right? And he takes players on when he does that, because he take-ons are in the 80th percentile and he carries in the 64th. But that typically isn't what our forwards do. Our forwards receive high, and then they take on in the final third, and they create from there the rest of it. So their pass completion is normally, I mean, Mo's, even when he's taking risks, in the 60s, so 33% pass completion. Again, is not a great percentile to be seen for a potential replacement for one of our front three. Okay. But okay, let's put that to one side. What did he do actually in the box? So shots, 39th percentile. So again, that's very low. It's considering we're normally asking our forwards to be taking 4 a game. Yeah, 4 shots a game. You remember Chiesa, when he comes on, typically gets 2 a play, and he's only on 15 minutes. So this guy averages just over that in a whole 90. So non-penalty XG, 56, non-penalty goals. He's in the 82nd. Okay, so he's getting the chances, should we say, but he's not putting them, he's not creating those into any output. A little bit like Sesko at Bournemouth, but Bournemouth, he had it, his dashes were a lot greener, he was a lot further on the chart. So you could say he was a little bit further along his development than this lad. Shot creating actions, again, that's just 15 percentile for one of our forwards. That's just nowhere near the level we would look at for a forward. Non-penalty XG and assists, 43rd percentile. So, yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag, for being honest with you. I've put him in here as a 9. I think we were chatting about who's he coming in to replace. So he's coming in here. This is him compared to Darwin, who is likely to be one of the ones that profiling to be the replacement for.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is some similarities, but Núñez performs better in non-penalty XG assists. Núñez performs better in terms of carries, passes, aggressive touches. Let's have a look at non-penalty XG is better at. So there's some elements here that Núñez does better. So the only thing that he doesn't do as well is non-penalty goals and clearances. So yeah, I would be. This is an interesting profile for us to be at. I'd be questioning if you're looking to replace a player, Darwin, or another player. I would have expected a wagon wheel to be closer or better than the player you're getting moving on from. So this wouldn't necessarily. I mean, if we look at him maybe compared to, let's look at Diaz. Well, Diaz on here somewhere. Just quickly running through. Cody, can't find Diaz on. What's Diaz? Okay, if you look at it for Cody, maybe Paul's right. Cody absolutely dominates on everything. So I think there's a lad we looked at. This lad here we looked at as a forward as well. Again, dominates on everything. Gittins we've looked at as well. Okay, similar kind of profile. So yeah, there's a few. And just to pull back, the guy we looked at in the Bully 2, again, outperforms on probably half the metrics there. So there's Sesko from the F brief data. Yeah, it's a mixed bag. Let's be fair, it's a mixed bag. Okay, maybe there's some things that they've got from underlying data we don't know about. If we look at the Bully League stats, okay, so when I said before, Bundesliga just publish everything. They tell you how far someone's run and the rest of it, which is really useful for us. So he's got 9 goals. Okay, great. 3 assists. Again, these numbers are nowhere near our current forwards. Okay, they're not near it. Sprints 5, 6, 7 in just trying to say the matches he's played, but 21 matches, 17 starts I think it was. So that's okay. High intent. Speed 35, yeah, that's quick. So that is pretty rapid. Ks per game is 191 is covered in 17. It seems a bit low, but yeah, that's okay. And intensive runs 1370, which is okay. He's probably not the highest we've profiled with, but so he has some pace. He does do some of the running, should we say, but in terms of some of the other metrics we looked at, they're not great. We look at some of the bits that I will run. So these are his splits for any given game. Duels, 28, which, okay, that's not far off what some of our forwards do. Percentage of EPV, 3.5. That's low. That's like Josh on a bad day. Pass success in this game is 93, so that's above what he normally does. He only had about 4% of our possession, whereas normally our forwards are involved in the double figures. What does he do with it? So if we look at his wagon wheel in this particular game, for me, he was on average. Remember, the black dot has to be in the middle of the club, so he's on average for all of the metrics. He's not above. Okay, so he doesn't do anything particularly great in this game. And this is the same sort of game where Simmons was in as well. And Simmons actually outperformed all his metrics in this game. So as a comparison we've looked at previously on the show, Sesko didn't do as much as Simmons did. If we look at how involved he is, so similar kind of patterns with the way Red Bull play. But if we look at his involvement, very little involvement. That's a pass or a touch, maybe, what's that, six or 5 every 15 minutes. That's a low amount. That's like Wolves' second half for Mo, right? So that's maybe a little bit off, and he's involved in the low passing chains. He receives some balls in the zone 14, but not a lot. So yeah, it's an interesting one in terms of what does he do for EPV? Does he figure anywhere here? I can't see him anywhere. No, no, he's not actually. So he's not involved in terms of creation or stopping the opposition. So that's something to be aware of. In terms of defensive actions, He's not featuring on. There's no high amount of defensive actions in the areas that he would occupy. Yeah, so I have to be honest with you. It's not. He has one shot in this game, right down the middle, 0.29, and doesn't score. So yeah, there's some things to like maybe, but I mean, if you're going to tell me he's going to be about £60 million, I would be a little bit concerned we were going to be spending that amount of money on a forward that's got a bully tax as well. Remember, you've got to take something off their metrics to come in the Premier League, right? So that's around 15% marked down. So that would knock his stats down even more. So yeah, I would. It would be. I would imagine. We're doing a lot of scouting for forwards, aren't we? I would imagine this guy is lower down on our list, should we say?
Yeah, it's like you say that there's little bits that are intriguing. The pace, because I know you've mentioned before, Cy Brundish always says about 36 kmh is rapid. So he is quick. He is big, as you said, in the air, his clearances. He almost has a resemblance of Nunes, so to speak, in his stature, if that's the right phrase. Price mark, as you said. Now, it was interesting because he signed a contract last summer to remove the release clause, enhanced wages for him. But all the stories that came out then were a case of, well, actually, he has, quote unquote, a gentleman's agreement with Red Bull that if someone comes knocking with 70 to 75 million euros, which if you get him back at Tesco, probably is around what? 58 to 62 million, somewhere around the 60 million mark, essentially, in that regard, which is interesting. And the other one, Bart, and just trying to make any case before we completely knock it down, is some might look and say, well, 8 Champions League games, 4 goals. So he's got 15 in all competitions in 31 appearances and 4 assists. But from the underlying metrics, I mean, you can even see I had a look at some of those goals. We don't need to play them. I did describe him as a lot of a bland merchant, a lot come outside of the area and a wonder strikes, which Liverpool, as we know, don't really like to get involved in those players because they don't sort of translate well, and that isn't how we play. Is the risk a little bit with Sesko, Bart, that it looks good from almost a FIFA perspective, as in he's fast, he scores long distances, but the metrics just don't translate to a Liverpool forward particularly, do they?
No, I think this is. I'm going to put it out there. I don't even think this is that Brandon Nunes. I think you could end up signing Nunes Mark II, and you'd have very similar problems.
Yeah.
So I've just worked out his distance per game. If you look at the starts he's had and the total he's done for the season, it's just under 10. So typically our players are putting in about 11. So I mean that's only a K difference, but he's still. Yeah, there's a bit of but that, again, some of that might be the role likes are asking you to do. Some things are not, but that's a little bit on the low side of a bit actually for a season average. But yeah, it doesn't profile to me from looking at this, and I always caveat, and we always do, that the club will have extensive data behind the scenes.
Yeah,
but it doesn't look like the kind of forward that we would be profiling to move on from our current setup.
Well, there we go. Long story short for you, Benjamin Sesko, he would not be on our list so far. And bear in mind, people, we've looked at the likes of João Pedro, and there's a few others coming in the week or so. So keep your eyes peeled for those. And maybe a nice tie-in to the next one, Bart. Red Rebellion's put there about Luis Diaz and don't rule out Anthony Gordon still joining. Well, Anthony Gordon plays on the left wing, Bart, and that is who the next players on the docket today. Now, this again was similarly, this was David Ornstein has mentioned this. Liverpool have been linked extensively with Nico Williams, as of Arsenal, and David Ornstein mentions those two clubs having a specific interest. When we did dig in on this one, Bart, talented player, always seemed that reluctance to leave Spain. The one thing we got off the analyst we checked with is almost a bit of a Euros hangover a little bit with the non-move to Barcelona and everything that came. But obviously a talent well known in the world of football. I'd be intrigued to say what the stats are saying on Nico Williams this season then.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad thing to put in people's mind right at the beginning, that Euros hangover, because if you look at his minutes played, so he had 29 starts last season, clocking in just under 2-3 minutes. Season before, just under 2-7 with 32 starts. So he's on 16 starts so far, and he's only clocked in 1,400 minutes. So that's a little bit low. I would suggest he's not been in favour. I think he's been injured a little bit this season as well.
Yeah.
So he might not make. He's probably going to make 2,000, but I don't think he's going to get anywhere near some of his top end ones, should we say. Largely depending on how Barcelona are doing in the Champions League, but I mean, they're in pretty good stead to finish second to us. So there's a chance he gives minutes out, but that's a little bit low for where we are in the season. We look at our goals, assists, etc., per 90, as we toggled on. So he was in and around 0.2. It seems to be his 2-season average. He's down at 0.06 this season. Season before the Euros, he was up at 0.44 for assists, which is higher than a lot of our boys are doing currently. Dropped off to 0.19 this season. And then goals and assists for 2.5. If we look at the expected, if I can just get to that, I'm going for that. I've lost it. No, we're here. If we look at expected, so expected assists, he again is pretty much bang on to 0.17 to 0.19. So it's not like he's under before he's actually in positions and not doing it. He's actually bang on. If we look at his XG per 90, so his XG here 0.18, and then so he's probably slightly under his XG. To be fair, he should have got 0.18 and he's at 0.06. So there's maybe something in front of goal that he's not quite up to his usual standards. But yeah, I think he's definitely having that post-Euros kind of drop off. I mean, they won the tournament, didn't they? So yeah, there's something to be had for that. Yeah, so he did play a role in that. If you look at off the ball, as we always start, that's having just had a go at a previous game, not being great. Aerials, so he's not involved defensively, and when he is, he's in 44th percentile. That's not great. Clearances, blocks, interceptions. So either tackling or in doing passing lanes or pressing, he's not very good at any of it. So that's interesting. That's someone that might be Barcelona, but unless they've moved too far away, Barcelona off the ball used to be quite houndy in terms of how they get the ball and systematically. Yeah. So that's a bit interesting to see. What is he doing between the boxes? He's clearly a carrier here. So he receives progressive passes. Great. So that means it's hard to pitch. Touches in the penalty box, 73rd percentile. Again, that's better than the previous stuff we looked at. Maybe not in the high that we'd expect some of our forwards, but that's okay. That's five a game. 96th and 95th percentile for progressive carries and take-ons. Again, so he does a bit of the carrying as well and taking people on. Brilliant. Passing wise, 33%. That's 33 percentile for his passes attempted, 70% pass completion. So these are lower. So he's not really. And if you look at his assists, he's 86. So that's interesting. So you'd expect someone with that low percentage of passing potentially wouldn't actually provide that many assists, but he is. He's 86 percentile for assists. Goals, as we've seen now this season, he's clocking in low, right? So non-penalty goals, he's 25th percentile, not great. Shots, he's just not shooting enough, 2.3. As I said, Chiazzi normally does that in a summer appearance, let alone a full 90. So that's potentially where he's not having enough shots to produce the XG to have the chances. Assists is still doing well. Shot create connections, to be fair, 83rd percentile, so he's involved in an action that is a shot or creating something, nearly 5 a game. So there are some signs there. If we're doing a direct comparison with one of the guys that he would probably be looking to replace, it's Diaz. So Diaz is red, Williams is blue. As we can see, Diaz completes more passes. Williams carries it better, takes on more people on, wins more aerials, has greater assists. Okay, but Diaz is involved in the goals more. Okay, and that's even considering, as we've said many times, Diaz is a bit hot and cold. Yeah, I think at the weekend was his first goal in 10. I think it was. So yeah, that's that's something to take on board. If we compare him to the current starter, though, if I could find Cody, here we go. So Cody does dwarf him a bit, bar carrying the ball. So that maybe gives you a little indication of maybe where he is on the list. If you want to compare him with Diaz, yeah, I could see that. If you compare him to the guy who currently has the shirt, because let's be honest here, Cody has now moved himself into being picked ahead, then yeah, I would largely say he's probably Cody's ahead of it. If we look at some of the stats I would produce for him, he's playing in the wide left area, so he's in and around the left half space. Okay, that's fine. A little bit more into zone 14 than we normally expect our forwards to be, but that's okay. It's not a bad place to be. If we roll it down to, in this particular game, he received a lot of the ball, which is good. So he's involved. He's also involved in any pass combination up to 10 passes. Good. So Barcelona do like to keep the ball, but it's good to see that he's involved in that as well. He's not just on the end. If we look at how he's involved in and around the half spaces in zone 14, it's not great, but he has more variety than some of the other players he's had. So he's got both, it shows up on both sides here, left and right, and he's involved in zone 14. So there's some bits to like about. If we look at how he is as an individual player for that game, 56% duel rate, not bad. Aerials doesn't take part. 15% of our team EPV, so that's better. That's better than the previous guy. One of the better figures we've seen so far. That's not bad. Nearly 10% of the total possession that Barcelona had. So that's okay. 70 touches. If we look at the wagon wheel for this game, so he's bang on average for all the metrics for his position. I can't actually remember who else was playing in this game. I'd have to look at who else was playing in the game. But yeah, so not bad. Yeah, not bad. So let's look at where he is in terms of how's he getting on. Stops quite a lot of the EPV against him, and defensive actions is fairly does okay here. Okay, not too bad. Compared with the guy on the right hand side, it probably does more than his fair share. So I think there are some elements to like, but yeah, I would come back to the fact that he needs to shoot more to get more goals, and he's having a bit of a down season, I would suggest. But there is some stuff to like in between the boxes, but defensively, we'd have to work on that. And that'd be where, if the club have got data that would suggest that he does do some stuff off the ball, that'd be interesting to see, because from the stats that are available, he doesn't seem to be doing a lot of the things off the ball that we would normally demand our forwards to do.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm probably butchering this name, Lasady Katane, saying evening, gents, evening to you as well. I think that the one thing it almost goes back to, because I always, when we get this info box, we always wonder, does it tally with what the stats say? I mean, the big thing was the talk of it. He's suffering that Euro hangover, a bit like Phil Foden's had. And it's interesting that, as you said, the assists, the carries are really high. That's the info we got from analysts, where his essence of why his stats are high across that 365, which you've always told me FB Ref gives that year reference, is it was massively higher last year. And as we got the info, last year he actually clocked 20 assists in all competitions, which is really impressive, and why he was in the Spain's Euro team. This season, across all competitions, he's on 6 assists. So just under, a third of what he was last season. Goal contributions. He doesn't score many. He's only got 4. He didn't score many last season, to be fair. He isn't an assist machine. But from everything we see, and we know he's a flyer, we know his release clause, it's 58 million euros. We know he's reluctant normally to leave Spain. That's always been the question mark. We also know, because of the loyalty to Athletic Bilbao and the way he is, he's on big money there. There's not really much way you can make an argument to put him on big money with Liverpool, spend, 58 million quid to start ahead of Gakpo or anything like that, even with his potential, is there?
No, I think. What is he? 22, I think, isn't he? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 22. So he's right in the right age bracket. But for me, it'd just be a bit of a. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, transfer market got about 70 million here, by the way. Just looking at because I was trying to find his what his injury record was. But yeah, I would be. For me, the worry is maybe it's the burn from last summer where we put all our eggs in the basket trying to get 6, and then he went, I don't want to leave Spain. Maybe it's another one of those, and having such a downer for the previous season, he'd have to do quite a lot to prove that he's not, that isn't permanent, if you know what I mean. So you'd hope he'd return, obviously, but I'd just be a little bit concerned. I'm not sure I'd be paying out that kind of money on a player who's just had that kind of season, if that makes sense. But the guys have looked at him. I think but for that money, I think it's better on the market. I mean, he's missed. So 24-25, he's had 2 injuries this season already. One's a hip injury, one's an ankle injury. So one of them September, one of them in October. So he's not had any in 2025, but he's missed just short of 20 days this season. So not many games, but that's why there's maybe a bit of a decline. But for that money, I personally go with more of a short bet, put it that way.
Yeah, and to be fair, I'm thinking of, and I know people when we're saying this will say Williams can also play right. That is true. I know he played in the Euros for Spain right, but it is predominantly left that he's been switched to this season. And on the left, we've looked at Semenyo, we've looked at Gittins as well, and they do profile more in almost a Mane or with something about them, those two as well. So we've got to be honest, people, on our list, Nico Williams would be well down if he's even honest. So that might seem a bit of a low one for people, but we are finishing someone who has been a recent link. Now, this name, Warren Zaïre-Emery. Christ knows how Bart's would pronounce that if I didn't do it. But a young talent from France. A lot of games for an 18-year-old kid. And the excitement around this, Bart's, is Sam Maguire put a story out, so shout out to Sam. We know how reliable his information is, that Liverpool very much like this kid. And if there's any chance at all, they will be there. And when we did a bit of digging on it, and as always comes out with the Sam story, people are like, yeah, absolutely, there is interest. Now, the info we got on this part from sort of the analyst on the other side was, superb passer, excellent passer. That is one to keep an eye on. And as the phrase was used to me, I don't know if this is a phrase you guys come across or not, a space eater, covers massive distances on the pitch in routine. So I'm not being funny, Barts, when you hear a young kid, over 100 appearances, played in the Champions League, thought of highly, space eater, covers big distances, excellent passer, it strikes a lot of the right notes. Now, I know when you've been starting to look at these stats for an 18-year-old kid, there's stuff to like in this one.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, start as always with, minutes played always gives a good indication about where he is. So I think fair to say last season was his breakthrough season, right? He went up from short of 1,000 to nearly 2,000 minutes. So that's incredibly good. Went from 1090s to 21. This season, I don't know where the French are in the league, but anyway, they're about halfway, should we say. He's on 1,300. So he will smash his career high in terms of minutes. Probably will come in around 2,500, which is a 25% increase. Pretty good for a 25-year-old, I would say. That's very, very good though. If we look at his assists, he's not. I'll tell you some other stats in a minute, but he's not really in the side to do that. If I'm being honest with you, if you're saying he's going to play a part of a double pivot, which is what your information is and a few others, that's not really his game. And actually, to be fair, that hasn't really moved much last season. So that's not, XG 0.6. Again, you wouldn't expect your double pivot to be doing that. Assist-wise, 0.7. It's half of what he was doing last season. And XGA is a little bit less, but that's not really what he's in the side for. Passing, as you say, Completion, I mean, 90, 90, 92. That is something else. That's pretty good. 77 on top of these per 90. So this is progressive passes. So that's the pass that moves the ball more threatening towards the goal by 20% or 20 yards, depending on what metric you use. That's consistent. So 5.3 a game. He's now 5.2 a game. So that's not dropped off. That's really good. Yeah. So passes into the final third. He's again just below what it was last year, but that's not a problem. That's pretty good. Long pass completion is dropped off a little bit, and he's completing more, which is a little bit weird. So he's attempting more. So he's taking more risks with his long passing, which is not too bad. Short though, I mean, that is 96% is on average for this season. So that's his highest he would have done. Highest he would have carried. Pass his distance is up at 980, whereas last season he finished at 896. So he's already passed the distance. And this is per 90, by the way. So this is already what he's passing, he's doing per game. That is so he's making nearly 10 more passes a game than he did last season. So he's upped his level of his volume in terms of passing. Pass type, I don't really give you a lot from a 6, to be honest with you. In terms of defensive actions, so tackles about the same. I mean, tackles, it can be a bit of a weird one because that kind of show you might be out of position and that kind of thing. But he's not. What I'm trying to say here? These are not dropped off by any way, shape, or form. Defensive third where he needs to be, he's pretty much bang on where he was last season. Tackles are about pretty much bang on where he was last season. Blocks, he's actually gone up a bit, which probably could indicate that he's in better position to block rather than make a tackle. Interceptions, 1.3, so that could be that he's tracking the passing lane better and making an interception. So that's gone up a bit. So he's up by half a game than he was last season, so that's good. Some of the other stuff to keep an eye on, aerial duels. So this has increased, but it's still not high. I mean, he's winning to 10% more than he was last season. It's only 35% average a game, which is lowish, considering our 6 normally sits in front and helps out. I haven't got his. How high is he? No, I don't know how. 173. That someone had to convert that for me. That seems a little bit small, but not too small. Yeah. So I have to look that up. But because one of the criticisms of some of our players is big attributes, he's tall, he's physical, so you need to get someone similar to him. Looking at dashboard stuff with him, this is PSG. They get a lot of the ball, so it's not going to show you anything massively you don't already know. He's averaging 85. I mean, that's he's on the ball a lot. If he's playing a double pivot with PSG, he's going to get a lot of the ball. This shouldn't be mind-blowing to people. This should be like, oh, yeah, okay, that's roughly what it is. So this is saying he's on 5 touches or passes nearly every minute in the first half, yeah? So that's kind of what you expect. He's then involved in passing chains up to 10. Yeah, again, it shouldn't be a shock. This is kind of what PSG do. The stuff that is interesting is he's involved in passes into the left half space and to the right half space. That's interesting for 6. He's playing deep and he's making those passes. Okay, I'll take that. If we look at in terms of how does he profile against his team, 62% duel rate, good, not too bad. 4% of EPV, that's not far off what Grab is doing at the moment. So that's not bad. 78% is not a great game for him since he's in the 90s, but there you go. Had about 10% of possession. So I got his receiving success now. So yeah, there's a lot there's some bits to like here. If you look at his metrics, bang on, good aerials, good passing, nothing really failing there apart from the shots. But again, that's okay if we're playing him for a double pivot. We're not asking him to go and do that. So EPV, what does he do off the ball? How does he help out? So I can't see him here. He is. Stops 88%, which is good. Lost 12%. That's fine. That's okay. That's fine. If we look at where he is, the little pocket here will appear in. There is 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a good portion of their defensive actions. So that's just under 10 in the boxes that he will control. So that is even more in the first half versus second half split. So again, off the ball, he's doing the stuff that you would expect. And then we look at XG, he's not really involved in that. So we're not going to beat him up with stuff with it.
Yeah.
But some of the bits that people might not be aware of is if you look at, so Mark Arstad does a thing about looking at some deeper line metrics like XT and gives you a per player, which you won't necessarily see on some other sites. So this is Ryan Gravenberg's line. Okay, so XT per 90 is 0.11, right? Progressive passes 2.8, 1.34 for progressive carries, plenty of box carries 0.2, and progressive receives 0.34. I think that's right, isn't it? Progressive, as a receiver. So that's right, and he's having a good season. Yeah, that's not Gravenberg. He's having a good season, right? This is this kid who's younger, 0.7, it's only 3% off. 2.7 progressive passes. Grav is at 2.8, right? Progressive carries 199. Grav is at 134. So the kids do better. Penalty box 0.31. Grav is 0.2. Kids do better. Progressive as a receiver. So what does he do when he receives it? 4.4. Grav is 3.35. So considering this kid is 4 years younger than Grav, right? I've got that right. Grav's 22. Yeah. There is a lot to like. There's some embers here. I get some of the guys saying, "Oh yeah, I prefer Vinier," and that's fine. But this kid's 18. This kid is not. This is a youngster who's got some attributes there that are similar to some of our more established stars. And just to follow that up, that is an F-brief wagon wheel comparison with Grav. Yeah, so Grav obviously dominates him a little bit on aerials and tackles and the rest of it. Fine, yeah. But if you look at shot creating actions, passes attempted, pass completion, non-put XA, all the goals, this kid outperforms Gravenberg, who's having probably one of his best seasons of his career. Yeah, so that for an 18-year-old, there's a lot to like there. Aerials, okay, that could be, his height thing would probably be the only concern because I'm not 178. It's probably 5 centimeters, a little bit short. But there's a lot to like in that kid. If you could pick him up for, I don't know what you might know about the price. If you can pick him up for not a lot of money and PSG willing to sell, that's that could be a good backup. Or not backup, but you know what I mean. A player to have that will play minutes like Endo does, or can play in the cups and that kind of thing. So yeah, so I was surprised when he first chatted at me. Sometimes I'm like, "What are you about? Who's this guy? I can't find him." And then when you run the stats on him, you get some pleasant surprises. And this kid has got some hallmarks here that he could be something special.
Yeah. It's interesting, and just in case anyone did miss it, it was a Sam Maguire exclusive. As it says there, for those of you who haven't got the visual, Liverpool are keeping a close eye on Warren Zaïre-Emery and prepared to go big on him if given encouragement. The PSG youngster ticks a lot of boxes for Arne Slot. And I like that one as well, Bart, because when you, as you said, you put it up against the mark stats, you put it up against the FB ref. It actually, we're always pleased because sometimes I know you scoff at my suggestions a little bit or where I put these things on the map, but I only get what we get, so I put them to you. It is it fair to say for you, quite clear and understandable, why Liverpool will be looking at an 18-year-old kid with some pretty damn good FB ref, mark stats, passing, distance contest, and thinking, yeah, you could see for 18 now and these minutes already, this kid could be, probably it's fair to say for his age, already is special, but in terms of longer term, clear why they like him.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there would be a tax on playing La Liga because it's lower down. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's not as bad as Eredivisie. I think it's just below Bully, so you're probably talking about 15% tax. But no, for an 18-year-old kid who's progressive, when you make a step up from making a big load of minutes to then your second season kind of thing, that's a cliche, but to maintain the level of that stat line and improve on some areas and increase the volume of passing, so he's not going away. That's good. I mean, there's a Conte that said Grab 22. True, Grab is 22, but the other thing about Grab is he could play as an 8. Yeah, if you get another kid who can, this guy looks like he's just out pivot player. If he just comes in and sits in there, you can free Grab up to release some minutes on one of our other players, right? Because currently we only have 4 midfielders that Slot really, really wants to play. Yes, Endo's getting more minutes. I don't think Endo's going to start any big important games between now and the end of the season. I'll be really surprised if I'm wrong on that. But it would be nice to have the options to play Grab a little bit higher up if you need to, or to play someone next to Grab. It just give you another range of options. Or if you bring this lad in and you play next to Grab, you could put Mac higher up. It gives you another set of options. So I'm not saying Grab is over the hill. Please don't take that. But it's just an 18-year-old kid to be doing. It's like we said with Hato. For a kid to be doing some of the stuff that he's doing, these are the profiles that the club is looking at. The club is looking at younger players between 18 and 22 and trying to bulk up that amount, because if you get them early on, there could be something special. You develop, you give them minutes, and then they're set for us for 4 or 5 years, and we get the best out of them. And that has always kind of been a model that the club has been trying to aspire to. We just lost our way a little bit, should we say, keeping some of the older players a little bit too long. But no, for me, this is an age profile of player we should be getting. If we can get him cheap, this is a Brighton deal. This is what Brighton would do, personally.
I think the problem will be PSG, Parisian kid, the money. We'd love it to be cheap, but it just seems like that is going to be the ultimate player. But from everything we're seeing about this player on a stats mark, he does seem special. And Darius has put there, Zaïre-Emery and Hato would be my dream summer. If you've seen our stats, if you've seen this show, all 12 so far, you know we would take that all day long in an absolute heartbeat there. And as he also said, I mean, such a youngster still. It'll be 19 next month, but the minutes had already played there. Yeah, there is a lot. So, ladies and gents, it's always good, as they say, to finish on a high, because realistically, when we talk about it, Sesko, we called him a bit of a bland merchant. The underlying stats aren't really there. We talked then about a winger, Nico Williams, who may be suffering a Euro hangover. Yes, over 365, there's pace, there's assists, but is it really what we want when you've got Gakpo? It's hard to say. We left the pièce de résistance, probably the worst French anyone's ever heard, for the French youngster there, Warren Zaïre-Emery, who, as Bart said, in terms of the underlying metrics, what we're seeing from a kid that age is pretty special. It does match the Sam Maguire exclusive. It does match, when we went chasing on the back of that, what the analysts are saying in terms of the space, the passing. That kid is pretty special. However, PSG French, new deal till 2029. Special, unfortunately, it does not equal cheap. So will the club even get a chance? We will have to see. And there we go. Thank you as ever for your comments. Thank you for suggestions. Just in case there's a few calling out, we will be coming back with Transfer Market Metrics episode 13. Now, that may be unlucky for some, but just to signpost it, it is a summer striker special coming for you in that one. And Bart knows who he's profiling already, so he's got homework to do. And with that homework, it leads me to say, as ever, Bart, for the time, the insight, for the analysis, and for bringing Mark stats into our life as well. It is much appreciated, pal.
No worries, anytime. See you soon.
And ladies and gents, that was another Transfer Market Metrics Anfield Index.